So you are being hypnotized by yourself all the time. The thing about hypnosis is that in order for it to work, you have to forget that you're doing it to yourself. So all hypnosis works this way. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. It's a delusion that's self-induced. You do it to yourself. Nobody else is doing it. It always requires your participation. You have to choose it. What a lot of people are doing, though, is they're hypnotizing themselves in ways that they don't like. And then they're complaining about it. And a lot of people will go through their entire lives in this way, hypnotizing themselves in ways that they don't like and complaining about it. And then coming up with various strategies trying to deal with that. And those strategies don't give good results because they're just a reaction to the self-hypnosis. So a better approach is to realize that you have the ability to choose to hypnotize yourself differently. I mean, first of all, just recognize that you're doing it and then realize that you can change it. So when you understand this, you hold the power. I mean, you always hold the power, but when you understand this, you then consciously hold the power to make your life beautiful as it should be. Because the truth is that you are not here to suffer. You are here to fulfill your desires. That is the reason why you've taken this life at all. That's the reason why this life exists. This life exists because you have desires and you want to fulfill them. So it's like this life, before this life came into existence, there was a desire, your desire. And that's why this life came to be. But then once this life came to be, for most people, what happens is they forget about what gave rise to this life. And then they're just caught up in reacting to the whole thing. And a lot of the time, the strategies have to do with trying to just get through, trying to just make it through the whole thing. But if you think about, then if that's how you approach life, is just trying to get through, then what you're not doing is actually paying attention to what it is that you really want. And because the point of this life, what actually gave rise to this life, was your desire, then if you don't have clarity about what that desire is and you're only just trying to get through, then at the end of the life, you still have the unfulfilled desire that gave rise to the life, which then means there'll be another life in which you'll seek to fulfill that desire. So it's much more efficient if you keep your eye on what it is that you want and don't get lost in your own self-hypnosis and then reacting to that. So this is really the most important thing from my perspective, because if you forget about this, then, like I said, you'll just fall back on your old strategies of just trying to get through it, just trying to get by, which ends up being a lot of avoidance strategies, trying to avoid what you don't want. And a lot of people get lost in trying to avoid what they don't want. So they just know what they don't want and they're trying to avoid it. And the whole life becomes consumed with that. But what's lost in that is the fact that, as I've already pointed out, that this life is all about a desire that actually has given rise to this life. And it's your desire. So you owe it to yourself to fulfill that, because if you don't, well, eventually you will have to. So why postpone it? Do it now. I mean, if you're already complaining about life, if you're already complaining that life is too difficult or too painful or too this or too that, then why are you going to want to sign up for more of it? Just stay focused on the desire and fulfill it, because that's why you're here. You chose this. You might pretend like you didn't, but you did. So here's a way that you can do this that can be really helpful. there might be some part of you that says, oh, how do I know that that's true? And I need to hold out until I really know the actual truth of the matter before I'm going to, actually go all in on something. And if you tell the truth about it, then you've been playing that game for a long time and it hasn't been giving you good results. If you keep telling yourself that you have to have absolute certainty about something before you're going to play that way, before you're going to go all in, then you'll never have that absolute certainty. And so you'll never go all in, which means you'll never actually fulfill your desire, which means that you'll never actually satisfy why you came here in the first place. And that would be a drag. I mean, wouldn't it? That just sounds like a real drag. Just to never go all in and just keep on keeping on doing the same old stuff, which is all avoidance strategies, which never gives you real fulfillment, but keeps you coming back over and over and over and over and over just to keep doing the same avoidance and being unhappy about it. Whereas what is possible is to play the game. Just go all in and play the game and understand that that's how you do it, is you just play. Because that's how you learn. Play is learning. If you refuse to play, you're refusing to learn. And that's in order to satisfy your desire, you have to learn. And therefore you have to play. But if you avoid playing, you avoid learning, which means you avoid satisfying your desire, which means that you just keep on being stuck. And you can complain about that all you want, but it won't give you any different results. What will give you different results is just to go all in and play. Now, a lot of the time people are afraid of that because they think, well, the stakes are too high. How can I just play when the stakes are so high? Well, actually, I would reframe that. I would say, how can you afford not to play when the stakes are so high? Because play is how you're going to learn, which is how you're going to satisfy your desire. And that's the whole point of this life. That's why you're here. So if you don't play, you won't learn, you won't fulfill the desire, which means you've totally failed. So in order to succeed, you have to play. You have to go all in and play. So you can do this by just telling yourself that you can. You just commit to doing it. Just commit to playing. Because absolutely you can. I mean, the thing is, so I'm going to say the same thing, but I'm going to say it slightly differently. It might sound like it's contradicting what I just said, but it's the same thing said differently. You're always playing. It's just that sometimes you play in ways that are really painful to you. You play in ways where you tell yourself that you can't play. You play in ways in which you tell yourself that you can't imagine. You play in ways in which you tell yourself that you can't actually experience anything that's important to experience. You play in ways in which you tell yourself that you can't know what your true desires are. You play in all of these terrible ways that are so painful to you. And then what you can do is you can choose to play in ways that actually work better, just by making it more playful. Make it more playful play instead of making it this miserable, very serious kind of play. And so when I say that, I'm not saying to be dismissive of your responsibilities to your children and all the rest of that. I'm just saying that there's a way to do all of this in which you can just, it's more of an internal thing where you just admit to yourself that you actually can play, you can do these things. And so when you start to open up in that way, you start to realize that all of this is all self-induced hypnosis. Then you start to realize that there's so many more options available to you. And so what do I mean by that? I mean that you start to realize that you've been defining the rules all along, but you were defining them in ways that were really unpleasant to you by and large. And you don't have to continue to do that to yourself. People ask a lot of questions, and they ask these questions. They think they're asking the questions sincerely, like, what is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? Why God? Why me? Why have you done this to me? People will say, well, God, if I was God, I wouldn't have done it this way. I wouldn't have made life like this. Nonsense. You've made life like this. So why are you going to keep telling yourself that? Because it's a self-induced hypnosis. So if you keep telling yourself that, then that's what's true for you, but it's not actually true. It's just what you're believing. It's what's true for you. is that working out well for you? Instead of being fixated on this idea of some absolute truth that you need to get into thought, which won't happen, by the way, because by definition, absolute truth cannot be formulated in thought, because thought is divisive and absolute truth is unitive. So that won't ever happen. But and instead of thinking in that way, which doesn't give good results, how about just start thinking in a different way? Like, what's going to give me better results? Instead of it being all about this very serious, heavy way of doing it, just start to think about it in terms of, if I'm not satisfied with these results, let me try it a different way. That's what learning is about, right? It's like, okay, tried this, it's not giving the desired outcome. Let me take that feedback and reassess and try it a different way.